who are doing it tough, each and every person. We're also concerned that this government is just not doing enough when it comes to providing an incentive for people to be kept in work. The employer support that was announced as part of the stimulus package, we said on Monday, wasn't enough because it wasn't providing any incentive for jobs to be maintained. And we're seeing that played out day by day as retailers and others announce tens of thousands of jobs losses each and every day. We want the government to get this right, and we want to help them to get this right. I also want to make some comments about where this issue is going and about the Prime Minister's confused statement to the Australian public last evening. I watched the Prime Minister's statement, which of course went for more than half an hour. It was confusing. It was the reading out of a list. The Prime Minister actually spoke about details in which he himself then went on to say he didn't even know what it was. Australians are confused. They're confused that teachers can't have a wedding with more than 5 people at them, but they're expected to teach entire classes of more than 25 students. They're confused that each day the government seems to be making different announcements about the way that they should act, about what activity they can undertake, and about social distancing measures that are confusing. What the government needs to do is to adopt some very clear principles. And one of those isn't that there's a tension between dealing with the health issues and dealing with the economic issues. That is a false distinction. Let's be very clear. The government has a responsibility to deal with this health emergency. That is the first priority. Then it needs to deal with the economic consequences of the health emergency and the appropriate response. It needs to be done in that order. It seems to me that the government hasn't got that sense right, and that's resulting in some actions which are confusing. It seems also to me that the government needs to announce what it's doing today and foreshadow what will happen later on, so that people can plan for it. Quite frankly, the announcement of 5 people at weddings, 10 people at funerals, other numbers at different activities is just causing confusion out there. Hairdressers are saying they can't function with a 30-minute limit and will be better off simply being told that they need to close. Schools are getting confused messages that students shouldn't be at school and parents should keep kids home, but they're all open for anyone who wants to go. The Prime Minister's statement last night that the entire workforce were essential workers was designed with politics in mind rather than designed with healthcare and the economic impact in mind. It's time that politics was put aside. It's time to deal with this health emergency, deal with all of its consequences, have clear, consistent messages and implement them in a way which is easy for the community to understand. I might ask Jared Dwyer to make some comments now.
I speak today on behalf of retail, fast food and warehouse workers. And those sectors represent 1/10 of the Australian workforce. And I'm here today also to speak in support of the trade union movement's call also for a direct wage subsidy. The time has come. Businesses, large and small, employers, employer associations, unions, all of us are speaking with one voice. This government needs to put in place a direct wage subsidy to address what is currently a health crisis, but very quickly becoming an economic one. We've got voices out there from entities like COSBOA, the Fair Work Ombudsman in terms of small business, and AIG. Large organisations speaking on behalf of employers and business, and we're adding a union voice to that in calling for the wage subsidy, similar to the UK, similar to New Zealand. It's time for Australia to step up and act and put in place the direct wage subsidy, and it's got to be done now. In our sectors of retail, the jobs are shedding in their thousands. It's time to act. This is about health, it's about jobs, and it's about ensuring the businesses in which those jobs are there when we come out on the other side of this virus crisis. So, to the Morrison government, put aside the politics and put in place a direct wage subsidy for Australian workers, Australian families and the Australian community.
The government has made a deliberate decision to shift people from work to welfare. And the Centrelink queues at the moment that we're seeing are showing exactly that. That decision is wrong. We want as much as we can to be able to keep people in work. We want to be able to keep people's relationship with their employer. The government's design means two things. One, the support they give to business is not based on how many people they keep on, but on how many people they used to employ. They haven't kept any incentive for businesses to keep people on. And even when they do their calculation on how it works for how many people you used to employ, the median wage subsidy only goes to 20%. Businesses that are suddenly watching their income disappear can't keep someone on if it's only a 20% level of support. There are different ways of fixing this. There's a range of methods that the government could use. But at the moment, they have gone down a path that guarantees the Centrelink queues that we are seeing. At the end of this, we want people to be able to go back to the same jobs they had, having been able to pay their household bills in the meantime, and to return having continued the relationship with their employer. At the moment, by deliberate design of this government, none of those things are happening.
Thanks very much, Tony. Happy to take questions, and Chris Bowen's here as well to take questions on health.
Do you support stricter shutdowns if you're talking about hairdressers who are saying they would go to
I absolutely support stricter shutdowns and clear messages about them and a timetable of when things will occur. The government at the moment is making new announcements every day. That's no good for business. That's no good for certainty. That's no good for giving confidence in the community that those in authority know what they are doing. When they hear a different message every day, what some people are doing is second guessing where those messages are going. That's why people are out there making the sort of purchases that we've seen, be it toilet paper, pasta, other essentials, because they don't have confidence in the certainty of the announcements that are being made. Now, there are two approaches to that. One is you can take what the Prime Minister has done, which is to hector people and blame people. The second approach, which I want to see all government leaders, whether they be the Prime Minister or myself and my team, state leaders, is to be very clear about what is required today, what is recommended, and be very clear about what is likely to happen down the track. But if you have a proportionate response, as the Prime Minister has said, that is leading to new announcements each and every day, and that is causing concern in the community. That's the feedback. Get it right, say what's occurring, say it clearly. If people understand it, they'll be able to follow it.
If that's the case, would you like to go straight to stage 3 as the
Well, look, very clearly, there is an argument for that. One of the things that we see with the group of 8 experts who advised the government, and last night I must say the explanation of that was just as confusing. But I've had the opportunity now to see that documentation. It clearly recommends that schools be closed except for the children of essential workers, consistent with what's happening in other countries in the world. The recommendation can't be clearer. The government asked for the expert advice, they received it, and now they're not following it. They need to follow that expert advice. It's very clear that there will be further measures very soon that have been foreshadowed. People need to know what that timetable is. And I've said consistently, if something is going to happen next week, you've got to have a very good argument to not do it today. That is an essential precautionary principle when it comes to healthcare, but it also makes sense when it comes to our economy.
What do you make of the text message that was issued to millions of Australians today? Was there enough information?
Well, I didn't get the text message, but look, it's good that information go out there, but it needs to be clear. If you compare Jacinda Ardern's press conference yesterday morning with the confused message we heard last night, I think there's a clear way forward.